Boozed and Bothered on occasion may contain content that readers and listeners find offensive or distasteful. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast or on the articles on the website are solely those of the individual authors, speakers, and or guests, and do not necessarily reflect the views of Boozed and Bothered as a whole or the views of any of Boozed and Bothered's affiliate or parent companies and organizations. Enjoy the show.
France has banned guns.
They haven't hit a single target. All they've hit is children.
Now they're rolling down the street with a fucking Panzer.
You wouldn't just jump in and get all up in it?
And all of a sudden, you both take like 3 steps back and fucking look at me like I'm a weirdo.
Ice-T was coming to pick him up.
18th century relic, my fat fucking ass.
They're locking up the detergent.
Can we not take a turn in this conspiracy town, please?
I feel like there should not be 1,000 people on the freeway right
Why the fuck not?
Knowledge could be anything. A nut's a nut.
Do you think police brutality is an issue?
Oh wait, we're putting tinfoil on.
That's coming in through the bum.
now. I'm straight white male.
Derp, derp, derpy, derp, derp.
I'm not gonna get boozed and bothered about it.
Cheers to that.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Boozed and Bothered. Boozed and Bothered Vignette. Boozed and Bothered Vignette 3. I am your co-host and producer, Sean, aka Daddy.
And I'm your host, Jonathan, and I am cuddling with Sean's dog right now, who's super slobbery.
Today we are going to be talking about the new mandate in California to...
It's not yet a mandate.
Not yet a mandate. The coming mandate.
Yeah, we can say that.
Yeah. The coming mandate in California of mandatory solar panels on every new home that is built. So every builder, I think every person, individual at all, building a new home is mandated to put solar panels on these new construction houses.
If the brown shirts that run California do get this passed, and I think it will. I think they will. I think everyone expects them to. The LA Times the OC Register is the one that broke this, but the LA Times is the one that distributed it like nationally and especially statewide. They made it seem as though this was kind of a done deal. Like there's really nothing more than a rubber stamp when it comes to any policies coming out of anywhere around here in Sacramento at our capital. But this will take effect on new homes being built after 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And it is to have solar panels on all new homes. That's the goal, but there's like certain like allowances for homes with not enough roof space, or there's too much shade going on because of course you can't compete with the trees. All that hippie bullshit. I think the thing that is so striking about this is the fact that it adds tens of thousands of dollars to each home price.
The cost, yeah.
And the proposed savings over like 30 years definitely outpaces the expected cost.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of allows people to go with this isn't that bad. This is good for people. Like, look at it in the long run, blah, 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 blah. And I definitely don't want to take that away from people. I think that is, all arguments are valid when they're put on the table. I think that's the one that they're running with, and it's not a bad argument. The problem is that home prices in California are the highest in the nation.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Poverty and the inability to afford housing are the highest in the nation here in this state. And despite the fact that we were just re-ranked as the 5th largest economy in the world, beating out Grande Bretagne.
What's up, redcoats?
They stay the fuck over there. It is impossible for a successful economy in the modern era to not go, how can we make it harder to be successful? And I think it's a great idea to put solar panels on your house if you want them.
Sure.
I think the mandate, why make it a mandate? And even then, even outside of just like this, like statist, march to the beat of our hippie drum shenanigans that the state of California's government always does, this is the epitome of champagne socialism. This is corporatism at its finest. They are mandating that you buy solar panels for your brand new house that you are lucky enough to get a loan for, the sizable enough of a loan to build. And it's just like...
Is this a mandate for the buyer or is this a mandate for the builder, though?
It's a combination of the both. These building companies right now, it's like low double digits. It's like 12 or 17% for some of the largest home builders. Like KB Homes is one of the biggest home construction companies or designers or whatever they classify themselves at. They make a lot of suburbs. And I think all over the country, but especially here in California, only like, I think the LA Times said it was like 12% of like 100,000 or 80,000 homes that they built have solar panels on them.
Yeah.
So, even if you move that more to the higher percentages, even if you get that up to like 60%, one, you're still not hitting 100%. And two, you're just making all of those homes so much more expensive for people who are trying to get into the housing market. And I don't like the mandate. I think that if solar is a good buy, and it's got a good deal behind it, that people are going to want it. And people do put it on their homes, like 10 to 12%.
So what do you say to the people who say, what's the argument against people who say this is good for people?
Well, one, if you're not going to buy the house, then, maybe leave people alone and don't tell them what to do with their stuff. A. And two, if it is good for people and they just don't want to buy it, then that's kind of an answer to your market question, right? Because they're not willing to invest that much money.
Sure, but I think the people who are asking these questions aren't really regarding markets. And I think we know that oftentimes from the left, it's more of a moral standpoint.
Well, and I think the morality part of this is like, saving the environment and saving energy and, we all have to do our part.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, but we also have to take personal responsibility for our choices. And if you take that away from people and put a mandate in front of that choice, one, you're definitely playing with the housing market. How soon we forget that we shouldn't. And two, this isn't about morality. The state's not looking at this as a moral standpoint. The state's looking at this as increasing tax revenue for itself and by pushing companies into this mix. It's just, we've had 10 years of cronyism with solar companies.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing, you get tax rebates. Well, if you didn't get a tax credit or a tax rebate or whatever for putting solar on your house, would you do it? It's tens of thousands of dollars right now, unless you do financing, to save however much money, but if somebody wants to do it, then somebody can do it. But the government sitting there saying, this is what you need to do, and we're going to incentivize this with, tax breaks or rebates or credits or whatever, just so that you can put this on your home, new or old. The government shouldn't be telling people what to do from a moral standpoint. The people can decide. That's the market. And, clearly the vast majority of people don't really want this on their house. Or it's out of their price range. It puts a brand new house out of the price range. Not everybody can just look at a $20,000 to $30,000 hit and be like, you know what? I'll take care of that over 30 years. It's fine. People see that very differently, especially when you've got homes that are over $500,000 to $750,000 brand new. That's every penny counts when you're planning like a mortgage or when you're doing a financing situation. These things, yes, you're going to save money here, I guess, but it's also a lot of debt to take on, and it's even more debt with this kind of mandate. It's nonsense. If people want to do that, that should be their choice. If they don't want to do that, I don't think putting a regulation on it, one, is a moral standpoint. I think that that's bullshit. And two, I think that people know that putting solar on their house is going to be good for their energy bill. They also have to worry about their wallet on the other end. It's just because you're saving over here doesn't mean you're not adding to your debt over here. It's a little rude to make people do that.
Right. So, and I don't necessarily, especially talking specifically about solar, I don't necessarily see the cost to benefit ratio. It doesn't work out for me. If we're talking about the better options here, I mean, you've got solar, which the majority of manufacturers, when it comes to solar, on a good day, the efficiency of these panels is 19%. On a good day, they're converting 19% of solar energy into electricity, kilowatt hours, and then you've got maybe 3 manufacturers on the list out of all major manufacturers of solar who are doing over 21%.
And that's energy taken in versus energy stored, right?
Yeah.
Or converted into usable. Yeah. Okay. I mean, listen, I don't, I'm not going to pretend to know the technical specifications of solar. I can't. I think everybody knows that I don't. I think that it just comes down to a choice, and it's, every single appliance in your house can be made, much more energy efficiently, with more energy efficiency. Thank you. Yeah. Words. And that goes, and companies are doing that. Our light bulbs last longer and take less energy. Our refrigerators, our washing machines, our dishwashers, everything takes less energy, less water, yada, yada, yada. The other part of this is that even with the solar power on your roof, you still have to be hooked up to the grid because your solar power is not going to last you through the evening and the night.
Right.
So, you're contributing to your daytime, I guess on a good day, you're contributing to your daytime take or use of energy. But, when you're actually home after work, watching Netflix, you're using grid energy.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, there's very little evidence that solar power is going to power your home during the day completely anyways. It's not going to have 0% efficiency.
Sure.
Or waste or whatever. So you're going to be drawing from the grid anyways. And yeah, everyone's like, oh, well, every little bit helps. And yes, that's true. But
I think the main argument here is the housing prices. I think for a state that's as large as it is, with the economy the size that it is, with experiencing the money problems that it is, with its poverty rate, this isn't helping anyone. This is strictly a moral ground argument from people who aren't looking at the bigger picture here. You're looking at, oh yeah, we're helping the environment, but what's the cost of that is more people are going to have a harder time purchasing a home.
Well, and California has the largest poverty, the largest percentage of people on public assistance
in the nation.
Yeah. And that goes for state or federal aid.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that there's a prize for the most crony capitalist state government, because God knows who that would be. Every state has their thing, but this has been California's big thing. Is solar companies are always pushed by the state. They're backed by the state. Everything about the state government loves solar.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay, the sunny California, whatever. But, you would think that if it was successful, people would do it.
Right.
And people early on in solar were buying in when it was 7% efficiency?
Yeah.
Like the early days.
When it was bad.
You know? And it's like people will still buy into this because people do care about the environment, and just because you don't want to spend $30,000 to $50,000 having solar installed on your brand new house that's already costing you $600,000 minimum in some places, that's the minimum.
Yeah.
You know, doesn't mean that you're some sort of environmental demon. It just, you can't force people to do that. Well, I guess you can technically,
You should,
but you should not. And I wouldn't even know how to like take anybody seriously who was like, you have to do this for the good of mankind. You know, like it's the right thing.
Right. It goes back to that creepy greater good argument that a lot of people use when it comes to justifying
crony capitalistic.
Yeah, dangerous ideas. Honestly, dangerous ideas.
Yeah.
You know, and it's this sort of ambiguous vision of the greater good and of everyone living in a utopian happiness, without understanding consequences, without understanding side effects of mandates like these. You're forcing a lot of people's hands. You're forcing people out of their ability to do something. I mean, there are a number of people I know right now off the top of my head who are looking to buy a home. When you throw this into the mix, it lowers chances. It lowers a lot of people's chances.
That they would build a home. Are they looking to build a home?
Some people are looking to buy new homes, new construction, and things like that. But, you know, I mean, there's still side effects to that, right? So, okay, yeah, now these people are out of the area of being able to afford new manufacturing, right? But that's going to have an effect on already built homes because they're going to have a new value to them.
Well, it's the value of not having
to deal with this.
Yeah, and that is a good point. I hadn't thought about that, but there will be, you know, if there's a backlash against construction,
already built homes are going to see
they're going to see
price jump.
It's going to be an opposition force. Like that is true. That's a good point. I didn't even think about that, but that is, you know, there are markets that are so upside down. Los Angeles is the worst. San Francisco's up there, obviously.
Yeah. Worse than the nation.
But for housing availability versus need. And it's one of the reasons that the markets are so like explosive and so like up there is that there's, you know, San Francisco needs like 10 times more housing than it is currently building or has available.
Right.
Well, not has available total, but I think at the rate of building, it needs to build 10 times more, but obviously it's on a peninsula that's going to be nuked by North Korea. So the chances of that being built are slim.
Yeah, San Francisco experiences a lot of geographic problems, though, because of the peninsula. And it's the same thing with a place like Seattle, where, you know, they're on an isthmus. The majority of that city is on an isthmus. I mean, it's very slim. A very slim piece of land. San Francisco is a very small piece of land. It's not even an isthmus. It stops, you know, and you got a bridge to the north, and that's about it. So, and then what this does, right? So you talk about raising prices on new construction, the potential blowback, I think, that you can bet on that will happen from that. That'll cause prices to jump on already built homes, which will again be compounded in San Francisco markets.
Oh, yeah.
In the San Francisco housing market.
Well, surprisingly,
I mean, that poop map's going to get a lot more expansive.
Well, it's already a shithole. So I'll put this thing up here on the post, but Sean, you can take a look at that. That's LA is the top one. So LA, as expansive and as massive as Los Angeles is the leading among all housing markets for a lack of need or for an increase for an amount of need versus the availability. And it's so upside down right there. Mm-hmm. Sacramento, Fresno, Kern, and I think San Bernardino are the only major markets in California that are on the flip of that, where the housing is being built at a faster rate than demand.
I mean, we'll see how long that lasts in our market.
Well, yeah, that's true because we're getting a lot of Bay Area influx, which I mean that's been the way it is for the past like 25 years, basically.
I think more now though, and then we're also experiencing a lot of transplants, receiving a lot of transplants from other parts of the country.
Yeah, I mean Sacramento's making its own way. But I think Sacramento's doing it at a much better pace than it did in the early 2000s. I think that.
Well, yeah. I mean, I have to say that we'll see what happens if this mandate becomes reality.
And what I'm still not clear on, because I feel like the LA Times touched on this a little bit, but they didn't quite go into it, is renovations. So they catch you. I'm not really sure what the policy on renovations is because they kind of touched on it, but then they backed away and they never went into it. So if you're doing like significant renovations, does this policy hit you as well? Like that's insane.
Right.
You know, could you imagine going and spending like what, $10,000 to $15,000 on a new roof, and the state sends some jackass down and they're like, "Well, you have to install solar. We're not approving this." Like. Ugh.
Yeah, it's yeah. Then that's another thing I didn't think about. Regulatory agencies are gonna have to show up and mandate these things, or at least new regulations, new laws that are gonna cost more money. It's gonna cost more money on the government side, which means obviously it's gonna cost more money on the private side.
Right.
And so this is a multifaceted issue, which is gonna cause a multifaceted effect. This isn't just this isn't just going to end with we're saving the environment, which is arguable with an energy source like solar. That's another topic for another day. But you have a lot of regulatory costs that come with this, which always by government is pushed off onto the private sector, which at the end of the day is pushed off onto the customer.
Right. And how do you get onto the approved list for solar companies?
I'm not in that industry.
I want to know. Well, either you have to pay a lot of money or you have to suck someone's dick to get on this list, because it's like a very short list of companies that are being put into place.
Right. Yeah, that list that I had up was not very large at all.
No.
When it came to solar manufacturers,
Like half a dozen.
if that.
Notice Solendra's not on there.
Well, they're not even on the map, so there's that. But yeah, it's just crazy. It's another mandate that's being pushed through via these creepy utopian ideas that people just have in their minds.
And I don't mind it. I don't mind. Well, I do mind the control aspects of this. I don't like that. I do understand kind of the push for argument. It's just that I'm the type of person who can't see like encroaching government like fingers on everything, and I'm just like, why do you need to do that?
Right.
Why do you need to do that? At most,
if an idea is so good, why is it mandatory?
well, just be like, the cost of your solar can come out of the tax for the property.
Sure, fine.
How about that?
Yeah.
Not even a tax credit or a tax rebate, or I think that is a tax credit or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But just take it out of the tax, like the tax bill on the property. How about that?
Yeah.
If you want to prop up the industry like that, because it's a very wishy-washy, not very successful industry, it just isn't. I mean, there's no solar energy company that can survive without government interference.
Right.
Which should tell you a lot. And it's not for a lack of Americans or Californians even being against the environment. It's just the fact that solar is very expensive and it doesn't really pay off.
No.
I think if the California state government's brown shirts weren't involved in this, then I would feel very differently about it. But they are.
Well, when it's a mandate, they're always involved.
Yeah, they just a bunch of dweebs.
Oh man, yeah. It's just another utopian mandate that's pushing this morality, which people aren't even considering costs. In my opinion, it's a joke.
Yeah, it's a very serious effect to put into a housing market which is already incredibly bloated.
Absolutely.
In a market where people cannot afford to live
Absolutely.
by the government's own statistic. So either this is a push to get people on welfare dockets, whatever, or this is or it's just crony capitalism at its finest to get solar companies to be involved in construction by mandate, which is
in an industry that already struggles anyway.
Yeah.
I
don't know why this has to be a mandate. I don't think that's very fair. I don't think it's very kind.
No. It's masked with kindness, as always.
Well, sure. But, you want to go and build little Timmy a new house so that he can grow up and have, like, a great time in life and he can, be part of this so-called American experiment or whatever. And your ticket to the middle class is completely bamboozled by the fact that, you have to put solar panels on for $50,000.
Right.
Or you don't get your brand new house.
Right.
I think that's bullshit. And I think the government should stay out of shit like that.
Agreed. I agree. All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for listening to Boozed and Bothered Vignettes. This is Sean. I am your co-host and producer.
I'm Johnny, and I'm your drunk host.
Yes, he is very drunk.
I only had like 3 sips of this.
This is Vignette number 3. Be sure to be on the lookout for our episode coming this week, which will be airing on Friday, as always. You can find us on boozedandbothered.com. You can also find us on social media at facebook.com/boozedandbothered, Twitter at boozedandbothered, no and, just the n, and instagram.com/boozedandbothered. You can also find us and listen to us on iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and YouTube, with potentially TuneIn whenever we hear back from them. Thank you guys all for listening tonight, and be on the lookout for our next episode, and we look forward to speaking to you soon.
Later.